Make up mine. Fight.
Most TF2 weapons tend to be pretty cut and dry in terms of their intentions and designs. You equip them, immediately start using them, and can instantly reap the rewards of using an unlockable weapon. In the cases that they're not, it's usually for some kind of snowball mechanic or bonus on kill type of reward. I think that this is ultimately a good thing, as you probably want your unlockables to feel immediately distinct from what you start with, but in some cases, TF2 weapons can require a bit more work. Sometimes, weapons poised to turn TF2 into a fighting game, requiring the player to build and burn a meter or gauge to gain their full benefits. A super meter for a pre-ultimate FPS. What's not to like? Weapons like these are pretty interesting to me, as they tend to rest somewhere between the bonus on equip and bonus on kill design philosophies within TF2's weapons. They reward you for playing well, but often only offer their boost temporarily while the meter is in play. Otherwise, they have to offer some sort of tangible difference or bonus when the meter is not in use to make equipping them worth it. In this video, I wanted to discuss every asterisk TF2 weapon with a built-in meter mechanic. I say asterisk because we're going to be omitting two very noteworthy weapon categories from this video: banners and mediguns. Banners because they gain their meter passively rather than doing damage with the banners themselves, and mediguns because despite them fitting the criteria for this video, talking about them would really over-centralize the discussion and basically turn this into an oops all medic type of video. And I'm sure nobody wants to hear that from someone whose literal least played class is medic.
You got a problem with that, you can go fuck yourself.
All that said, let's roll.
Number 4. The Galactic Sniper Champion, Sniping League.
For the first time ever in one of these weapon subcategory videos, we're actually talking about two weapons for the same class. Sniper, everyone's favorite Australian New Zealand problem child, actually has two weapons within the exact same item set that both feature a meter mechanic. It's a double sniper Exploiper. We're going to be discussing the Hitman's Heatmaker and the Cleaner's Carbine both in this video. These two weapons are interesting, as despite being designed by the same people for the same item set, with similar aesthetics releasing in the same update, they don't really combo together or sync all that well outside of both featuring meters. Because of this, we'll be discussing them in two mini sections for this video, rather than as a whole unit. Let's start with the Heatmaker. The Hitman's Heatmaker is an unlockable primary for Sniper with one main positive and one main negative. It deals 20% less damage on body shot than stock, dealing a per hit maximum of 120, which prevents it from one-shotting light classes with body shots under normal gameplay circumstances. This is obviously a pretty huge downside, as it narrows the margin of error for securing kills on Sniper pretty significantly and requires you land headshots to consistently pick important targets. As a trade-off, this weapon features a unique focus meter, which fills upon getting kills and assists with any weapon while this is equipped. After 3 kills, 9 assists, or any combination of the two, the focus meter will be filled completely, at which point the player can activate a unique buffed focus state for a maximum of 10 seconds. Within this state, the sniper's shots charge 20% faster, and he doesn't need to unscope and reload between shots. This allows him to relentlessly hammer enemies with a constant stream of faster charging rapid-fire kill shots. On top of this, the focus meter can be refilled while it's in use, allowing the player to theoretically extend it indefinitely so long as there are enemies to kill. So, funny story, I did not originally intend on talking about the Heatmaker in this video due to its meter mechanics being a bit different than the other weapons we'll be discussing. I thought I'd cover the Cleaner's Carbine and move on to the next class. However, after testing out and starting to grab footage with the Heatmaker, I found myself having a lot of fun. And then I kept using it, and using it, and using it, and then I realized I may have just found my new main sniper rifle. Like, I've referenced being bad at Sniper in a few past videos. He is easily my worst class in the game, but boy did the Heatmaker reinvigorate my interest in earnestly getting good at this class. It's such a uniquely, viscerally satisfying sniper rifle that just feels exceptionally fun to use and go on rolls with. Even the 20% less damage on body shot, which would hypothetically seem like a huge negative, didn't matter much to me, as it allowed me to mellow out more and focus entirely on securing important headshots. There was no more choosing whether or not to go for body shots or headshots or weighing which would be more valuable in the moment. I was just in headshot city with this thing. This is like straight up love at first use. I have had the Hitman's Heatmaker for pretty much my entire 10 years playing TF2, but never earnestly gave it a whirl before this. The focus meter is such a fun, satisfying, and rewarding mechanic. Not unlike the Bizarre Bargain, this weapon is effectively a direct downgrade from stock until you've secured a few kills, but unlike the Bizarre Bargain, it's exceptionally lenient and forgiving. You do not need a full meter to activate focus, focus, allowing you to use it whenever the situation may call for it, and the ability to maintain a perpetual focus charge by continuously securing kills is insanely fun. Instantly refilling your meter by headshotting some hapless out-of-position gamer without needing to unscope, and then doing it again over and over again is some of the most fun I've ever had on Sniper. I didn't even mind dealing less damage on body shot, as each kill and even assist I knew was helping towards regaining that meter. Plus, the weapon's unique cosmetic trait of decapitating enemies on headshot is just so satisfying. Helped Sniper's voice lines finally make some degree of sense.
Everything above your neck's gonna be a fine red mist.
I'm someone who tends to enjoy games the most when there's a satisfying tactile sense to the game feel, and the Hitman's Heatmaker delivers on that in spades. I'm actually not a huge fan of the game feel on the stock Sniper rifle. Something about its model and firing sound just don't really click with me. It feels a little too hands-off to me, if that makes sense. But the juxtaposition of the silent, suppressed firing sound of the Heatmaker, contrasted against firing off big damage, head-popping kill shots, tickles my brain wrinkles just right. It's so viscerally satisfying. Plus, the silencer actually does serve a gameplay purpose, as it genuinely does make your shots quieter and harder for enemies to detect. We love gameplay and aesthetic integration. Now, that's not to say that the Heatmaker is perfect. Despite my glowing endorsements of it so far, there is a reason that it's not considered the crossbow or Tomislav of Sniper's primaries. The 20% less damage on body shots is obviously enormous, as stripping away Sniper's ability to insta-pick medics and enemy snipers with anything but headshots means that you've basically got to be clicking on those heads in order to help your team. If you can't consistently land headshots or clean up low health enemies, then you're basically wasting your time and energy by equipping the Heatmaker. On top of that, the fact that the focus has to be gained, lost, and regained on every use makes this more of a burst-oriented sniper rifle, rather than something like the Bizarre Bargain, which retains its boost permanently so long as you can stay alive. Gaining the focus is more lenient and forgiving than the Bizarre Bargain, but its strength is also scaled appropriately. Both of these negatives make the Heatmaker a sniper rifle that mandates and rewards consistent skill and high execution, basically being a direct downgrade from stock if you can't regularly build the focus. This will not be a sniper rifle for everyone. Lastly, activating the focus does give the gun tracer rounds, and while they're not as damning as the Machinas firing every shot as a tracer, they can still give away your position. A sniper is most useful to his team when the enemy team doesn't know where he is, so this can be a bit of a problem. All that said though, holy cow do I love this weapon. This is the most fun I've had playing Sniper in ages, and is, more so than any other weapon I've discussed in the weapon subcategory series, a newfound favorite that this series has encouraged me to use. I've briefly used the Heatmaker before, but never to this extent. It's even great in MVM. If some high tour Harry gives you shit for picking Sniper in 2 cities, slap explosive headshots and damage on this thing and show them how a real professional gets things done. All in all, the Hitman's Heatmaker is a high-skill, high-reward primary that rewards consistently doing your job with the ability to do your job even more consistently. I hope that made sense. It's definitely a new favorite of mine, and a weapon that I can see myself revisiting. I now understand why all of those cheaters and bots tend to run it. That said, we're not done with Sniper, as we have one other weapon to discuss for this section. The oft-forgotten MVM staple, the Cleaner's Carbine.
Yeah!
The Cleaner's Carbine, unlike the Hitman's Heatmaker, is noteworthy because it's neither good nor fun. This is a weapon that's often in the running for most forgettable weapons in TF2, and when people are remembering it, it's usually to call it bad. It's a shame too, because it's literally the only unlockable SMG replacement in the game, which I've always felt was a bit of a missed opportunity. Regardless, maybe there is a reason that Valve started and stopped making unlockable SMGs here. Let's take a look at the Cleaner's Carbine. Quick aside though, I'm a bit of a stock SMG apologist. I fully realize and acknowledge its reputation as one of the worst non-melee stock weapons in the game, but I don't know guys, I'm a heavy main, and fast-firing, sustained damage weapons just make my brain happy. There's a reason why the 2 Australiums I own are the stock minigun and the SMG. By that logic, I should love the Cleaner's Carbine, right? Well, at a base, the Cleaner's Carbine is an unlockable secondary for Sniper with 2 noteworthy negatives. It features a smaller clip than stock, loading only 20 shots compared to stock's 25, and fires a fitting 25% slower than stock, giving it an all-around lower DPS despite each shot dealing the same amount of damage as stock. These 2 downsides combined result in this being a super unfun weapon to use, with the slow firing speed and microscopic clip making it feel remarkably clumsy and inaccurate in practice. Sniper's SMG is already one of the less graceful graceful weapons in the game, and this weapon takes that lack of grace and really runs with it, like a South Park parody. It makes it alarmingly difficult to secure kills with this weapon, which draws into question its role as Sniper's only damage-dealing unlockable secondary. All of this is hypothetically balanced out by the Carbine's main positive, which to be fair is pretty interesting. As you damage enemies with it, it steadily fills a unique Crikey meter, which after dealing 100 points of damage will be filled, allowing the player to press mouse 2 and gain 8 seconds of guaranteed mini crits across the Sniper's entire loadout. This is actually pretty neat, as it basically gives you 8 seconds of guaranteed loadout-wide Girardi that you can use indefinitely for its entire duration, rather than only applying it to the enemy immediately in front of you. Unlike the Girardi, it places the source of the mini crits on the Sniper's weapons rather than on his enemies' bodies. This can hypothetically allow you to go on some pretty crazy rolls, especially considering that Sniper may or may not have a melee weapon that deals guaranteed 195 damage crits whenever it would normally mini crit. This is actually the reason this weapon is considered meta for Sniper and MBM, specifically on Rottenberg. If you bring the Bushwalker and max out its swing speed, you basically have infinite guaranteed full crit swings that can pretty quickly shred tanks with the help of another teammate. All this considered, the Cleaner's Carbine is, at the very least, a tantalizing weapon that can promise big rolls to someone who can use it well. However, its main problems stem from its own habits of directly contradicting itself and it conflicting with the base mechanics of Sniper as a class. Because, you see, despite Girardi obviously existing and facilitating a very infamous and divisive instant kill Sniper combo, Sniper isn't really a combo class outside of that. Sniper is a class who specializes in hanging back and taking out targets from a distance. Anytime he's doing close quarters fighting, it's usually to deal with overly aggressive flankers who are attempting to counterpick him. To this end, the Girardi Bushwalker combo is such a powerful and controversial tool because it generally gives Sniper an easy instant win button against the most powerful flankers. It's very quick, safe, and easy to press 2, press mouse 1, press W, and press mouse 1 again. It's incredibly reliable, safe, and deletes one of Sniper's primary weaknesses against pretty much all flanking classes. If you'll notice, most flanking classes in TF2, with exception to maybe Roamer Soldier, tend to have less than 195 HP. By comparison, the Cleaner's Carbine requires that a Sniper either actively place himself out of position, engaging in frontline fighting that he is not physically equipped for, or slowly and methodically shoot flankers with this gun's pitiful DPS to gain the Crikey in order to earn its only positive. Despite 8 seconds of guaranteed loadout-wide mini-crits being very strong, this item is designed in such a way that means you'll basically have to be making concessions to use it, and I make enough concessions at work. You're giving up either the reliable safety and speed of the Girardi or the higher and more consistent DPS of the stock SMG for a gun that just offers a slower version of what both of those weapons do better. The bonus of being able to use a sniper rifle with the mini crits is kind of counterbalanced by an uncharged quickscope mini crit body shot dealing a massive 68 damage, and a headshot being a guaranteed critical either way. You can't even argue that it mitigates the body shot damage reduction on the Hitman's Heatmaker, which is this weapon's intended combo, due to the fact that you're still dealing less damage on body shot than you would with stock either way. Sniper is not designed in a way to facilitate big damage close range combos outside of the much better Girardi Bushwalker failsafe. On to what I said about this weapon being at odds with itself, the requirement of needing to deal 100 damage with a gun that deals approximately 10 every geological period is definitely a bit counterintuitive. Considering that we just talked about a gun in the same item set as this one that builds its meter with kills and assists across any of Sniper's weapons, it makes this one seem especially counterproductive. Maybe if this gun had something like a rate of fire ramp up where its firing speed gets faster the longer you hold down M1, it'd be a bit better, but as is, it's just kind of underwhelming. Why would you bother trying to deal 100 damage in one life with a gun that barely deals any for mini crits when Girardi is an option in the exact same slot on the exact same class? The argument of Girardi having a recharge time doesn't really come into play when you realize how lengthy and dangerous the process of building the Crikey meter is. All in all, the Cleaner's Carbine is a disappointing weapon, just like me to my parents. It's got a cool design, a fun risk versus reward concept, and an all-around badass aesthetic, yet it's hampered almost entirely by its primary job being filled by a much better weapon in the exact same item slot, and its overall feel and flow being incredibly clumsy and inaccurate. I would love to see Valve add another unlockable SMG to the game, as I feel as though it's a woefully underrepresented weapon category, but if all of them would end up feeling like the Carbine, then maybe I can understand the lack of them.
Flator!
Root beer. Pepsi.
Coca-Cola!
Spurt.
we've officially exited the sniper hole and have found ourselves stumbling into the scout pit. Scout is in an interesting position compared to sniper for this list, as while sniper's meter-based weapons were either perfectly fun if gimmicky side grades to just straight up downgrades, Scout's meter-based weapon is arguably one of the most powerful primary weapons in the game. It's often in the discussion for best unlockable weapons on offer to any class, and is even banned in competitive for being too over-centralizing. The Soda Popper. The Soda Popper is one of my personal favorite weapons in the game. It's a remarkably fun, fluid, powerful, and dynamic weapon that succeeds in neither being too similar to the stock scattergun, nor just a gimmicky novelty. It's among my favorite weapons in the game, and is my personal favorite scout primary on offer. But what makes the Soda Popper so fun? Let's dive in. The Soda Popper is an unlockable scattergun for Scout with a few very noteworthy distinctions. It's a double-barrel sawed-off shotgun, allowing it to fire only twice before needing to reload. As a trade-off, it both reloads and fires significantly faster than all of its contemporaries, offsetting its only listed negative and facilitating a rapid-fire burst damage playstyle. On top of that, the Soda Popper features a unique hype meter mechanic, which by dealing damage with this gun equipped, the Scout can steadily gain hype. After dealing 350 damage across any of Scout's weapons, Scout can activate the hype meter, granting him an additional 5 mid-air jumps for a 10-second period. This has a myriad of uses, from throwing off enemies in fights, to mobility and map traversal, to flanking, to everything in between. Already, it should be easy to see what makes the Soda Popper so great. Compared to the stock scattergun, its rapid firing speed and powerful punch-like close-range attacks can easily shred most targets at mid to close range, and with it dealing a maximum ramp-up damage of 105 per shot across a 0.3 second attack interval, it can really get out some insane damage very quickly. More so than any other scout primary, the Soda Popper facilitates an extremely fast, active, mobile, non-committal, and flexible scout playstyle, with the player being capable of getting in, railroading an enemy with back-to-back 105 damage shots, and getting out just as quickly. The 66% smaller clip size, which is its only listed negative, doesn't really matter when you're firing and reloading faster than every other gun at a base level. This weapon really is the dictionary definition of a side grade, as it functions entirely separate from stock, without too much mechanical overlap outside of also being a shotgun on Scout. What's neat too is that the meter is entirely secondary on this weapon. Like, yeah, the hype is obviously extremely strong, and we'll discuss that in a bit, but with how strong and distinct this weapon is from stock, it could probably flourish entirely on its own merits without the meter or any additional bells and whistles. It's such a fun, dynamic, and strong weapon, and one that really opens up unlimited potential for Scout as a class. The only thing keeping this from being an entirely over-centralizing best-in-slot pick is that it's a Scout primary and that the stock scattergun exists in the same slot. Without the stiff item competition, this would be in clear contention for one of the best primary weapons in the game. So yeah, even before discussing the meter, the Soda Popper is already a standout weapon that easily serves as one of the best unlockable primaries available to any class. It pretty much entirely lacks a unique or tangible downside, and could probably pass for a stock weapon if you remove the meter and cleaned up its design a little bit. It's such a fun, fundamental, and powerful weapon for Scout, and an easy choice for one of my favorites in the game. But what about the meter? Is this weapon truly worth the hype? Well, yeah. This weapon is already incredibly strong, so adding a wholly unique bonus mechanic on top of that is what really pushes it into potentially overpowered territory. The hype meter is deceptively strong, as dealing 350 damage with any of Scout's weapons really isn't that difficult thanks to this weapon's rapid fire damage output, and the Scout's plethora of secondary and melee damage over time utilities, and the utility of 6 mid-air jumps is more layered than you might think. For one, it makes this weapon an incredibly effective projectile counter. Against classes like Soldier, who rely a lot on splash damage, and Demo Man, whose direct hits are intrinsically harder to land, this weapon is pretty much a dedicated screw you button. Just land a few shots and then start flying around them as they desperately scramble to find a way to land a single crumb of splash damage on you. It puts the control and flow of the fight into the Scout's hands, which is the inverse of how these types of exchanges usually tend to be. Always fun to stick it to Metaslave competitive Soldier mains, who, as we all know, are the only real snowflakes of the TF2 community. And let's say you do get hit by a big damage splash rocket or direct hit pipe. Well, you've still got hype left, so you can just make like Poochie and return to your home planet. Just start flying away with your remaining jumps and leave your dumbfounded enemies in the dust. Assuming you survive, the very worst case scenario is that you've distracted the enemy, with the potential for damage or picks along the way. Plus, map navigation becomes significantly easier with the hype, as thanks to TF2's general map design design philosophies, 6 jumps is usually more than enough to clear any gap or reach any specific piece of high ground you need to get to. The height meter is all around one of the most potent and unique bonuses in TF2, and one that's uses and utility have so many more layers than you might think. The Soda Popper used to give you guaranteed mini crits for its hype, which was definitely good, but I'd say that this is just as good in an entirely different way. You can really never complain about on-command, unparalleled mobility. So yeah, the Soda Popper is definitely very good. This weapon would already be incredibly strong and useful without the height meter, but the addition of a unique playstyle facilitating additional mechanic really helped makes it a true standout within the game. I honestly think it could do with maybe one additional downside, maybe a 10% damage penalty or damage vulnerability bump while the hype is active, because as is, it's a damn near over-centralizing scout weapon that's only kept from being broken by the extreme competition in its item slot. It's all in all one of the best unlockable weapons in the game, and a clear winner out of everything we've discussed in this video. If you're in the camp who thinks that removing its old guaranteed mini crits for running stat with some debilitating nerf, then I'd encourage you to try it out because it's still most certainly very strong. This soda is definitely not diet.
Don't make me play Strange, please! Please! Please don't make me play Strange!
Please stop making me use the Phlogistinator. Y'all could have voted for the head collecting weapons for this video, but no, we just had to talk about meters. And while this video did help me find a new favorite on Sniper and gave me a reason to record one of my favorite scout weapons, the unfortunate shadow of the Phlog was always hanging over this project. I've made it no mistake in previous videos that I am not a fan of this weapon, as I find that it boasts the devastating combination of being anti-fun to use, very bad, and damn near dangerous for new players to stumble across. But for this video, let's focus on it entirely from a gameplay and practicality perspective. The Phlogistinator is an unlockable flamethrower for Pyro that boasts the same firing speed, damage, afterburn duration, and afterburn damage as the stock flamethrower. As you deal damage with it, however, you steadily build up a unique meter, which when filled, can allow the Pyro to activate a special taunt that grants around 8 seconds of guaranteed full crits. It's technically 10 seconds, but the length of the taunt is subtracted from this total. As a primary and gargantuan trade-off, this weapon cannot air blast, which makes it a purely damage-oriented flamethrower with very little in the ways of team utility, combo play, or any advanced pyro tech. Talking about the meter first, the oomph meter is definitely an appealing stat. It only costs 300 damage to fill completely or killing a single full health heavy, and the 8 seconds of guaranteed crits is definitely a tantalizing bonus for that. On top of that, the pyro becomes completely immune to both damage and knockback while using the taunt, making it useful as a last resort swan song tool when you're near death. When combined with a medic, an uber, an overheal, or just backing support of your team, running over an entire hapless team of enemies as they desperately try to deal enough damage before being melted can be really satisfying. It's inarguably one of the most effective full team counters when the chips stack precisely in your favor and the enemy team is exceptionally uncoordinated. On top of that, gaining the meter isn't that difficult. If you play conservatively and only take attacks of opportunity while pecking at enemies with things like the scorch shot or detonator, you can theoretically fill it very quickly and safely. The meter builds from any source of fire damage, so contrary to the belief of some players, you do not need to thrust yourself into unsafe situations to gain it. The Phlog operates in distinct phases, with the oomph building phase being very passive and the using phase being very aggressive. So that's all well and good. The Phlog is a weapon that allows the player to dynamically shift between passive and aggressive playstyles while taking advantage of its primary benefits and playing around its negatives. That's obviously all fine. All that said, I really hate this weapon. Even removed from its role as a bad learning tool for new players, it's simply not a fun weapon to use more times than it is. I know that I main Heavy, who is infamously one of the most linear and simple classes in the game, but the Phlog is a bit too simple and linear even for me. For one, you get absolutely fucked by soldiers, demos, and anyone smart enough to shoot an encroaching pyro while using this thing. One big secret about TF2 is that pyro is a close-range sustained damage class with damage ramp-up, so in a lot of cases, you can outdamage a pyro closing the distance on you by shooting them with close-range burst damage weapons before they can kill you. Instead of running away, just shoot them. In a lot of cases, the pyro can simply air blast you to throw off your aim or reflect your projectiles if need be, but in the case of the Phlog, you just gotta shoot them. A shotgun, rocket launcher, grenade launcher, minigun, they all do more burst damage faster than the Phlog if you can land your shots. And considering that a pyro using this thing will likely be walking directly at you, that shouldn't be too difficult. On top of that, this weapon flips Pyro's usual class counter dynamics on their head. Pyro is generally a super effective counter to Soldier and Demoman thanks to Air Blast being able to redirect potentially team-wiping splash damage, but in the case of the Flog, Soldier becomes your hard counter, as he effortlessly juggles you before you can close the distance on him. Your only option for close range damage using the Flog is to hold M1 and continue walking at people, which is really easy to counter. You cannot displace, throw off, or dissuade enemies from shooting you while using this. Lastly, and most importantly, this weapon completely strips away Pyro's class-defining team utility. Not being able to extinguish teammates, Man Melter exempt, makes Pyro feel like an exceptionally useless class to your team, and being completely unable to disconnect Ubers and reflect oncoming damage makes this all around an incredibly selfish flamethrower. I don't know if you remember, but there's a certain T word in this game's title that might make this a bit more problematic than it would be in any other game. You just kinda have to stand there and shrug while your teammates burn to death and get run over by Ubers around you. All in all, the Phlogistinator is a weapon that poises to make Pyro an incredibly potent close-range damage dealer, yet narrows their skill set so significantly to do it that it might as well turn them into a truck. You can steer into enemies and run them over, yet you're so lumbering and predictable while doing it that most enemies should be able to get out of the way with more than enough time to spare. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on the Flog and its general role in the game as an unlockable weapon, I'd recommend checking out my Beginner's Trap Weapons video, as I discuss it in more detail and from different perspectives there. As is, I'm more than ready to be done discussing this weapon and using it for a good length of time. I know some people really like it, and I know my views on it may give some people the impression that I feel as though it's overpowered, but trust me, it's exactly the opposite. This is one of my least favorite weapons in the game, and one that I think most serious Pyro players are better off not using. Phlogiston isn't even real, guys. So, how did I end up feeling about TF2's meter-building weapons? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Two of them wound up being some of my least favorite weapons in the entire game. The Flog and Carbine are both remarkably unfun and clumsy to use effectively, and their meters don't really make up for it. By contrast, the Hitman's Heatmaker and especially Soda Popper are both extremely fun and fluid to use, with the Soda Popper specifically being one of Scout's most notable weapons, meter or not. And that ultimately leads to two things I noticed. One is that the weapons that meters granted more than just more damage or crits tended to be more interesting than the ones that just gave you bigger numbers for dealing damage. Two is that TF2's meter building and burning weapons, despite the meters being their most noteworthy traits, often aren't defined entirely by the meters. Either for positive or negative reasons, these weapons generally tend to have traits that outshine the existences of their building mechanics. For the Flog and Carbine, it's because they're bad. For the Heatmaker, it's because it's very fun and satisfying. And for the Soda Popper, well, I think we've covered that enough already. All things considered, I'm definitely a fan of this design mentality within TF2, and I feel as though there's room for a meter weapon that could really go whole hog with the whole fighting game super-esque design mentality. Give a class a really big move with flashy effects and big damage, and you know what, I'm just talking about the miniguns now. Just make a TF2 fighting game. Thanks, hope y'all have a fantastic day before, during, and after watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Cheers!